Hello everyone, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Coma Rex. So the Coma Rex is a very interesting weapon, and there's actually a lot to it. I do a lot of my research on the wiki pages and like a few forums as well, but mostly the wiki pages. And the wiki page is a absolute mess of equations on this weapon. And to be fair, I didn't understand 100% of them, maybe only 80% of them. So, but we'll get into this here. Okay, so the Coma Rex. It is a sentient sniper rifle. It kind of functions like a sniper rifle, kind of not. It's a little bit hard to explain there. So it's going to have two zoom modes. The first zoom mode is going to lower your recoil, and it's going to give you some punch through hits. The second zoom mode, and the one that we're mostly going to be using, is going to give you a 3.5 meter viral explosion, 100% damage, which is not exactly just 100% damage, and it's going to reduce your fire rate by negative 75%. So there's a few things I want to go over about that second zoom mode for the Coma Rex. And since I'm in the Simulacrum, I can kind of just show what it says here. So first zoom mode is this reduced recoil and +2 punch through, and it's going to, shoot fairly fast. And then the mode we're actually going to be doing most of our gameplay on is going to be the more zoomed in mode, a 3.5. And if you see there, it says 100% damage added. That's not just 100% flat. It's calculated a little bit weirdly. It's 100% to IPS individually, and then it's 100% to status equation, or like the status mods, I believe, something like that. It's, again, there's a lot of stuff to the Coma Rex that I didn't fully understand. But just know that it's not 100% additive. It's a lot more than what it says. And the other thing is that fire rate is very punishing. So like this shoots pretty slow. This is as quick as I could shoot it with that negative 75% fire rate. But if you were to add any other mods that reduce fire rate, so for instance, there is a critical mod. Let me go to config, see where there's nothing here. Critical delay that has negative 20. Oh, negative 20 is not too bad, right? Well, for some reason, it must stack on top of that 75, and you just have negative 95% fire rate, I guess, because I mean, look how slow this is going to shoot now. I am clicking the button as quick as I can. There we go. There's the second shot. And so any reduction in fire rate is going to be absolutely crippling. So you cannot use this mod right here, or any other mod that would reduce fire rate. It would absolutely cripple this weapon. Okay, so that's the second zoom mode there. The other thing about this weapon that's interesting is that it's going to have secondary ammo conversion built in. So it converts secondary ammo to 100% of sniper ammo for you. So that's amazing. That's great. You have it built in without actually having to use that on the Exilus slot. So you get to use something else on the Exilus slot. And then finally, the last kind of unique thing, although there's a lot of weird things about this weapon, is that it has fall-off damage. And this is meters. So 400 meters out, you'll start getting fall-off damage. I don't know why that's even on this weapon as a stat, because I guess if you were in the open world and you were trying to shoot across the map, you might have less damage. But if this was less, if this was 40 to 60, I might use a mod that would increase my fall off, but you don't need to use it on this weapon, because this is already so far out that I don't even know if my render distance goes past 600, so I don't know. All right. So that's it there. Now, I did a lot of testing on this weapon. So if I go to my config C here, you'll see that this weapon has very low crit chance. It has a pretty average critical multiplier, and it has a very good status chance. And so I was like, okay, I'm probably going to build this out for a status weapon. And actually, I had already had this weapon built out, and I was playing with this build pretty much for the past couple years on the Coma Rex. And then every time I do one of these videos, I do like a really deep dive into the weapon that I didn't do when I originally made it. And sometimes I surprise myself and I come out with a better build at the end. And that's what happened here. So this is the element build I was using. It's still very good. This is still a really amazing build. But there is a build that beats it out. And that's going to be the crit build, which weirdly, I didn't want to think this beat it out because this is not a crit weapon. But it beats it out. And I believe it has something to do with the weird way this weapon like calculates the that 100% damage increase when you're zoomed in. Also, there's another effect that this weapon has. I'm going to straight up read this from the wiki because there's too much crap to try to remember about the Coma Rex. But as far as the wiki says, it says, despite bleed ticks notoriously being unaffected by physical mods, Coma Rex's elemental mod multiplier counts toward bleed and gas clouds as a multiplier unique from status damage. This is the game's first known occurrence of such a bonus. So somewhere in between that and the weapon having that 100% damage when you're zoomed in, crit weapons with the bleed procs work really, really powerfully on this weapon, even though it's not really a crit weapon. So I didn't want to think this build was going to beat out the element build, but it does. Slightly. And I'm going to show you that in the Simulacrum, just because, you know, if someone told me that, I probably wouldn't believe it, because this is a very heavy status weapon. Like, why the hell is a crit build going to beat it out? So I just kind of want to show the difference there. Now, on the crit build, there are two things you can do different here. Okay, let me go over the mods first. Before I get into the differences, let me go over the mods. So we're going to go Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, Galvanized Scope for crit chance, Galvanized Aptitude for status chance and direct damage per status type affecting the target, Hunter Munitions for slash on criticals, although we're still going to be producing a lot of natural slashes. Slash is our highest stat there. Point Strike for crit chance. Remember, we cannot use that 200% crit chance mod. The 200% crit chance mod completely makes this weapon garbage because of that fire rate. Vital Sense for crit damage. Hammer Shot for more crit damage and more status chance. Because remember, like, Hunter Munitions is nice, but it's actually the weakest mod on this entire build here, because there's another option over Hunter Munitions. Most of our slashes are actually going to be natural slashes. They're not going to be forced slashes from Hunter Munitions. So that's why Hammer Shot's really nice. You get more crit damage and you get more status chance to produce more natural slashes. Fanged Fusillade to increase our slash value. And normally this weapon's pretty doo-doo because it doesn't really get factored into a lot of things. But for some reason on this weapon, it does. And that's why it's a very good mod on this weapon. Plus, like I said, it increases our slash weighting. And so we're mostly getting slashes every time we're shooting things. Natural slashes. This helps natural slashes. And then in the Exilus slot here, we're going to go with Cautious Shot. We already have the ammo mutation built into the weapon, and there's nothing else here that's really that great. And it does have quite a big AoE. That's another thing, too, that is also weird on this weapon, is this weapon has a 3.5 meter radial explosion that produces viral, but it cannot be affected by primed fulmination. So, and that's because the weapon technically doesn't have a radial attack. The radial attack is built into the unique trait. And so fulmination doesn't affect it because it doesn't technically have a radial, even though it does. Super, super weird. So we're going to use Cautious Shot because of that explosion that the unique trait produces. It's going to help us not get knocked over. Of course, if you're using this weapon on a Warframe that has like status immunity, like I am going to be playing a Naros, which has status immunity, I technically wouldn't need Cautious Shot. So you could use something else. There's not really that much better you can use though. Maybe Stabilizer, but it shoots very slowly, so like you don't really have to worry about keeping your reticle on the target, like it's going to come down anyway. Terminal Velocity would boost out that fall off damage, but I don't know why you'd be trying to shoot across the map on an open world. So yeah, I'm just going to use Cautious Shot here. And then for our Arcane, we're going to go Primary Merciless. Primary Merciless is going to give us 360% damage increase and help our reload speed. Even though we're going for headshots here, the crit build produces such gigantic slash procs that a lot of your kills, especially later in Steel Path, will be from slash procs. And so Deadhead, you actually need to get headshot kills. And it's going to be hard to actually stack Deadhead because of the amount of enemies that are dying from slash procs instead of direct damage. So Primary Merciless is going to help with that, because all it requires is a kill. So they can die from slashes and you can still stack Primary Merciless. So, okay. Now, different things you can do on this build here. Now, the crit build and the element build are both viable builds. The crit build is so powerful that I don't think I'm going to be able to show how powerful this weapon is unless like I went to like level cap or something with it. Starting off like starter Steel Path runs, the element build actually might be better because the element build might have a higher kill per second potential. But the crit build produces more damage on targets. On like single targets. It does produce a little bit of AoE damage, and that's why we're using Hunter Munitions. But the AoE slashes are much less than the direct damage slashes, and that's likely due to aptitude. So, and because of that, Hunter Munitions is the weakest mod on this setup. And the option to get rid of Hunter Munitions would be Vigilante... Nope, not that one. Vigilante Armaments. So right now, we produce 3.3 shots every time we shoot. So that's 3 shots guaranteed and 30% chance to produce a 4th shot. With Vigilante Armaments, we're still going to be at 3 shots produced, but with a 90% chance to produce a 4th shot. So it's not that much of an increase, but it would increase our single target damage. So if we're using the Coma Rex to kill a single target, I mean, this thing, even on level cap, will probably just be pooping on enemies. But Hunter Munitions kind of gives like a good halfway between that element build that might be better kill per second and then the crit build, which is just straight up more damage. So Hunter Munitions provides a little bit more AoE slash to be killing things around us, because the viral explosion only transfers elements, non-physical elements. So it does not transfer impact, puncture, and slash, the viral explosion. So if I look at my element build here, my element build has corrosive and heat. And so the viral explosion actually transfers corrosive and heat to targets in a radial area around that explosion. Well, the crit build, without Hunter Munitions, the targets that are around the target you're shooting are only getting viral, because that's the only non-physical element that's on the weapon. But with Hunter Munitions, because this is forced slash procs, you'll get forced slash procs on those radial enemies. They won't be as big as the slash procs you're getting on the actual dude you're shooting, but they'll still be decent. So Hunter Munitions is pretty decent. It's a good in-between of the element and the crit build. If you wanted to go full crit, like full level cap, I'm going to do the most damage absolutely possible, I think Vigilante Armaments would beat out Hunter Munitions. Me, myself, I have a Riven, so I plot my Riven over here. But out of those two, for single target, Vigilante Armaments will win, and then for like an AoE in between, it would be Hunter Munitions. Okay, so that's this build. Let me show the element build off. Go through the mods here. It's going to be Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. It's going to be Serration for flat damage. It's going to be Galvanized Aptitude for status chance or direct damage per status type affecting the target. It's going to be Vigilante Armaments. It's going to be Malignant Force and High Voltage to make Corrosive, because remember, we have Viral for free already. So we're going to have Viral, Corrosive, and then Heat here with Thermite rounds. And we're still going to go with Fanged Fuselage for that slash, because we want to increase our slash weighting. And slash on this weapon is not really a wasted element, because it does get factored into a lot of the stuff that it normally doesn't get factored into. So it's quite good. Cautious Shot is still here for the Exilis. Primary Merciless, still there for the Arcane. Nothing changes there. So I'm going to just show quickly in the Simulacrum. Well, I say quickly. It's probably going to be 5 minutes. But I'm going to show in the Simulacrum the difference between these two. So they're very similar. They are quite similar. So the Element build is probably going to kill the big, giant Exo Ghost Stag Grineer in about 3 shots, sometimes 4. And the critical is going to kill them in like 2 shots almost every single time. Now, Exo Ghost Stag Grineer have the same like armor types as regular Grineer, so you don't have to worry that like, you know, they get shown differently. They just have a lot more armor, so they're a lot tankier. They're better to show high damage weapons on because they live longer. So how I do these tests is I'm going to summon 20 of these in at level 1. These are Steel Path. I'm going to summon them in at level 1. I'm going to kill them quickly, get all my conditionals up, and then I'm going to run back here, summon them again at level 225, which is the highest I can get. So right now, let me make sure. I think I'm on the Element build. Yep, I'm on the Element build right now. Okay. So we'll summon in those level 1s. I'm just going to kill them all real quick, make sure I get all my my stacks up. All right. Go back here, and I'm going to just boop, pop these up to 225, simulate, and now we're going to see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. I didn't hit that last one. 4, 1, 2, 3. I think I missed one of the headshots there. But you get the idea. It's mostly 3 shots. Some, if I get unlucky, it's 4. If I get lucky, there was like one that killed him with 2 shots. Okay, and that's with all my conditionals up. Let's go to that crit build. It's still very hard to see because this weapon still does so much damage that even those big giant Exo Ghost Stags are dying pretty quickly. So upgrade. I'm going to go to the crit build here. We're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kill all these guys on the map here real quick. So kill enemies, clear. I'm going to summon in officers, Exo Ghost Stags, same enemy types, 20 of them. We're going to do level 1 so we can make sure we get all our conditionals up. All right. Going to go down here. Two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's pretty consistently 2 shots to kill these guys. Whereas like the Element was sometimes 3, sometimes 4. There was one dude I got lucky on that like died in 2 shots, but this is like consistently 2 shots to kill these guys. And that's because the slash proc is gigantic on this. All right. So let's go over the differences between those two. So the Element build is still valid. It is probably, so I'm going to do these tests on low-end Steel Path, you know, like 130 to like level 200 enemies. And on 130 to level 200 enemies, the Element build will likely actually get more kills per second than the crit build. But the crit build will do a lot more damage on big enemies. And so if you intend to stay into a Steel Path mission for a long time, or you intend to go to level cap or like halfway to level cap, or whatever you're doing, if you're doing a very high Steel Path where enemies are starting to get bigger and tankier, this one will be way, way better than the Element build. But on low-end Steel Path, the Element build might have more kills per second than the crit build. Just because it has a lot more AoE, there's a lot of fire procs. All of these things are getting put on the radial enemies. You know, the radial enemies are getting viral, corrosive, and heat applied to them. So I think both of these builds are good, but I do think the crit build is the one I'm going to go with myself. So, okay. And then for differences on mods you can use. So we have Galvanized Scope here. And hey, stacking up to 5 stacks of galvanized scope is nice, but the higher you get into steel path, the harder it is to actually get a headshot kill. Because again, most of your dudes are dying from slash procs. They're not dying from headshot kills. They're dying from slash procs. Like even these guys who weren't even that high of level were mostly dying from slash procs. So at the end of the day, on really high steel path, galvanized scope only really gives you 120% crit chance on a headshot, because the first conditional is just a headshot. That's easy to do. You can always be at 120 with galvanized scope. The conditional on the bottom is the one that's hard to get. So let me type in argon scope. Argon scope could be an option over galvanized scope. And then only if you're doing very high steel path. If you're doing lower steel path, where you can actually sometimes kill enemies with a single headshot or 2 headshots, galvanized scope would be better. But when you're very high, like when you're on like level cap or like you're going to level cap, argon scope might be slightly better, because this is 135 crit chance, where galvanized scope is 120 crit chance. I mean, it's a 15% difference. It's not that much, but you know, if you're really looking to min-max at level cap, argon scope might beat out galvanized scope. And then the other thing that we talked about was hunter munitions or vigilante armaments. Vigilante armaments on level cap builds might beat out hunter munitions, just because the natural slashes on your main target is going to do so much more damage than the radial slashes from hunter munitions. So, okay. I think that's pretty much it there. So let's get into the actual gameplay and we'll show this thing off. Let me get out of the Simulacrum here. Go back to my orbiter. Sorry for like the over explanation. The Coma Rex, I would actually encourage people to go onto the Coma Rex wiki and take a look at it, just because I was not able to fully decipher all of the crazy crap about it. But I think I came pretty close. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my crit build, because I'm going to do this on the crit setup here. Because I don't mix this with I don't mix like the gameplay, I just try to show the weapon off by itself built out. I just do this on an Inaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance, no mods or arcane on the Inaros that increase weapon performance, and with a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. That way I can show the weapon off by itself, and the viewer can make their own intelligent conclusions about adding external things that might boost the weapon. So, but let's test this Coma Rex out in a Steel Path Kuva Survival. We'll do 10 minutes there. Kill some trash, kill some acolytes. Oh, the other thing I didn't really go over was there's another weird feature with the Coma Rex where you can actually use both of the firing modes. So you can produce slashes with this faster firing mode, and then when you switch to the bigger 3.5 zoom mode, those slashes will actually boost up to, like, you know how it says like damage added and you get more damage out of this mode? They'll boost up to this zoom mode's damage. So you could possibly play in your gameplay by shooting, you know, you don't want to shoot a lot. You want to shoot a few times, maybe like, 3-4 times, switch to the zoom mode, and then start playing that way. And then when you see another group of enemies, you switch back to little zoom mode, fire like 3-4 shots, get a few slashes, because again, the little zoom mode has punch through. So you're going to be punching through, putting a few slashes on like lined up enemies, switch to the big zoom mode, and then you're good to go. I probably won't be doing that. It's a little bit too much switching back and forth for me, but it is a way you can min-max this weapon. The other way you can min-max this weapon, and I don't think this is the proper way, but I know I'm going to get the actually people telling me it is, but this has a slow fire rate, right? I'm going to throw an ammo pad here just so I can keep showing this off and shooting at walls. This has a slow fire rate, right? But you can make that fire rate quicker if you unzoom after every shot. So watch. Now, I don't think that is the good way to play this weapon. I think you're going to get motion sickness. But I just wanted to put that out there. you know, it's more efficient to wear a diaper and shit your pants than to have to go to the bathroom every time. But at the end of the day, sometimes efficiency is not better than you know, the thing that feels the most comfortable, right? Like I don't want to be shitting my pants, so I'm not going to be playing like this, even though actually it's faster. I'm not going to be doing that. So okay, I'm going to cast my 3 once in a while to give myself health and armor, and that'll be the last. Well, probably not the last ability I use. I'll press that once in a while, but it doesn't affect weapon performance. All it does is give me armor, not health. Why did I say health? All right, let's start this up. Let me stop running my mouth here.
As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or...
All right, let's get our conditionals up.
...to begin harvesting.
Once we get our conditionals up, this thing should be slaying. Now, getting fire rate, you know, I don't do these tests with a Riven, but getting fire rate on your Riven would make this weapon feel a lot more comfortable. You wouldn't really worry too much about like the really bad fire rate, because it would make it a little bit more comfortable to use. But like you see how we have this hallway here. Let me try to show how that other mode works. So I'm going to shoot a few shots here, and then I switch back to my zoom, and all those slash procs I produce become the giant slash procs instead of the little slash procs that you would get from the 2x zoom. So like that is something you could do, especially in very linear areas, is you can switch that 2.0 mode, fire a few shots, and then switch to your big mode, and then that'll switch all those smaller slashes into big slashes. I personally don't like doing that. I don't like having to switch back and forth between those two. It's a little bit too min-maxy for me. It's not really very comfortable. It's not as uncomfortable as shooting like this. That's a little bit ridiculous doing that, but I know I'm going to get like someone that's like, actually, you can shoot quicker if you unscope after every shot. So this weapon is extremely powerful. You don't really get to see how powerful it is, though, in Starter Steel Path. It just kind of seems like a slow-firing, like, sniper rifle. It doesn't really... You don't actually get to see the powerhouse that this weapon can be. So I feel like this is a weird weapon where the higher you get in Steel Path endurance, the better this weapon is, and the more powerful it shows itself to be. So I think at the end here, I'm going to get like a kill count that looks like average. Let me make sure I hit some life supports too before I forget about them. Oh, we're getting the Acolyte. Let me make sure I hit some life supports before I fight him. I don't want to run out there. Got violence. Hit these other 2 life supports before I fight him. Maybe we'll get some trash here too, so I can get my stacks up, so we can really show what this looks like on the Acolyte. See, I think at the end of this, like the Coma Rex might look like it has average numbers of kills, but I don't think it tells the whole story, like the kill count at the end. I think the whole story, really, to see the whole story, you need to do like level cap with this, or do like a very high endurance. Well, that was one shot to his shields, and that's just Slash that's doing that to him. Everything else I'm missing. I have horrible aim this morning. Oh my goodness. What are you doing, Salt? Can't hit anything. That was 2 direct hits, I think. I finally got to him. 3 direct hits. All right, that's 4, and then the Slash will kill him there. My aim was absolutely hard against that guy.
When you are ready, go to extraction.
And this is a weapon, if I remember correctly, that just straight up comes from the dojo. So this is a very easily obtained weapon. So this is a very easily obtained weapon that can like go to level cap. I haven't done level cap with this, so maybe I'm a little bit being a little bit optimistic there. I haven't actually gone to level cap with this weapon. It's just like looking at this weapon to other weapons I've gone to level cap with. Like I think this would be fine going to it. Just because like most of those dudes at level cap, it's just their armor that really is the issue. Like you have to get most of your damage through slash procs. It's not the actual weapon that's doing damage, it's the slash procs. And this weapon produces a lot of slash procs. Well, not just a lot of slash procs, giant slash procs. So I could see this being a very good cap weapon. But the thing you have to consider, and I've said this in a few videos in the past, just because there is a level cap build, or just because a certain weapon is better at level cap than another weapon, doesn't mean it's better. Just because, like, right now, you're seeing, or you're going to see, I guess, when we get to the kill count, that some, like, pretty booty weapons might beat out this Coma Rex in kills per second, or kills per minute. But those booty weapons could never do level cap. So, like, just because you have a level cap build doesn't mean it's going to be better than, like, even average weapons sometimes. It depends on the content you're doing. It really depends on the content you're doing on how, like, a weapon is. Oh my goodness, Salt, your aim this morning. It's disgusting. This is where you can switch that 2x mode and then switch back, and then they all turn into big giant slashes. So I mean, that's a viable way to play this too. You could be doing that. That's probably the optimal way to be playing playing this weapon in linear areas where like enemies are in a line. You switch to that 2x scope mode, throw out like 3 or 4 shots, and then switch back to your big mode to get those slashes going. It doesn't change up the build at all. It's just how you would actually, press your keys while you're playing. I'm not really doing it that way just because it's a little bit too much for me to have to do that like every few times. We got another Acolyte coming. Let me make sure I get my My stacks at maximum capacity. Where is he? Oh, he's the Zephyr guy, isn't he? Yeah, he has Zephyr's Turbulence on him right now, so I can't hit him. But once Turbulence falls off, I might be able to get a good shot into him, and maybe the slash will finish him off. Oh my goodness, he has me in a corner. He's beating me up. Let me out. All right, so we're at 10 minutes here. Let me finish him off though real quick. And he has the Zephyr thing up. This does have an AoE though, so if I shoot the floor, he's going to die eventually. There we go. So 10 minutes, we're at 500 kills, which is actually above average. That's above average. But again, I don't think that tells the whole story of the Coma Rex. You know, I would probably rate this a little bit more than above average. I would say this is a very good weapon. Maybe not as good as some of like the crazy Incarnate weapons in the game that are like top tier. But it's a very good weapon, and it's only going to get stronger the further you go into endurance. Like showing it off on those 130 leveled enemies aren't really, you know, there's a lot of weapons that'll do better than it there. But those weapons won't do as well as that Coma Rex in higher end endurance. So let's queue up that 10-minute Lua real quick, show it off there, and then that'll be it for the video. So Lua's going to be a little bit higher level. They're going to be 180 to 200. They're going to be mixed enemies, so not just all Grineer. And it's going to force me to fight Thraxes, which are kind of like big tanky enemies, which this weapon should have no issue with whatsoever. Now, of course, I don't have any conditionals up. And these are 2 Dracmasters that steal your weapons. So, like, these are basically like mini-bosses that Louis Circulus loves to give you. I hate these guys. I hate them so much. They stole my weapon again. Every weapon's pretty ass without conditionals, so it's a pain. I don't know why they start with these 2 guys. I'm just going to start the mission here. It'll be easier for me to kill small trash and get my conditionals up. So just like pretty much every weapon in the game, don't judge the first 45 seconds where you're getting conditionals up. You have to really get the weapon at its max conditionals before it actually starts doing anything. Maybe not max conditionals, but you got to get a few conditionals at least. Yeah, we should be pretty decent here. Here these corrupted enemies go, fighting each other instead of fighting me. Gonna hit 1 life support here. I really like the Coma Rex. I actually have a pretty beastly Riven for it too. I'm not using the Riven right now because I don't want to show this weapon with a Riven because, you know, obviously people aren't going to have the same Riven as you. But I do have a pretty beastly Riven for this weapon. I had rolled that Riven when I had thought the element build was the best, though. So it has more like element-focused stuff on it. Like it has flat damage, multi-shot, and fire rate. Fire rate, flat damage, and multi-shot, which really good for the element build. But it's still pretty decent for the crit build too. I mean, I still want multi-shot. I still want fire rate. The flat damage probably could have been something different for the crit build, but flat damage is still good. It's just probably for the crit build there could have been something better than flat damage. So the slash procs from Hunter munitions, like the radial slash procs, aren't the biggest. It's not really going to be killing enemies. But if you see me like switching targets and an enemy is like already like, you know, damaged a bit, like that's basically what those Hunter munition AoEs do. Like they will over time kill an enemy if you're hitting other things around it. They're just not going to be as big as your main targets slash procs, and that's because of galvanized aptitude. Galvanized aptitude's really only your primary target. It's not AoE targets that are being affected by it. But I mean, without galvanized aptitude, like your option is Serration. It's like, yeah. Serration would affect the AoE targets, but it's still only 165. It's like I'd rather have a 4 elements. It's 400. Is it 120 for a primary, or is it 80? I can't remember. It might be 80 for primary. So 80 times 4, 163, 320. 320 for a target instead of 160 for radials. Leave me alone. I shot him once. Let me get my my thingy on here. My status immunity, so he doesn't beat the shit out of me. I must have hit him with like the AoE because he took a little bit of slash damage there. Got my weapon stolen, as is tradition. Now, of course, Acolytes can only stack slashes to 4, which is kind of hurting me here. He has big slashes on him, but they're only 4 of them. So, we got Thoraxes up. Let's get these Thoraxes down. I am missing half my shots, as is tradition. Alright, it's one down. Let's get the other one, wherever he is. My operator has died like 2 or 3 times there. What do I get? I think I get like a debuff to my HP with that. Hopefully not my damage. I forgot what the debuff is to dying multiple times with your operator. I think it's an HP buff, but I hope it's not a damage buff because that might affect the Coma Rex. I guess we'll see. If anyone knows, let me know because I've been too lazy to actually look that up. It's something I really should know at this point, but I've been too lazy to like ever look that up. Every time I think of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I should look it up one day, and then I never do it. What exactly is the debuff? I'm pretty sure it's an HP debuff because my Inara should not have 5,000 HP. All right, let me hit this one life support here. Negative zoom would actually maybe be good on this weapon. It depends. Like if you don't like the zoom, negative zoom on a Riven would be really good too, because you're kind of having to stay zoomed in most of the time with this. Because as soon as you come out of that zoom, your damage gets lower. You know, just like your damage gets higher when you go into that zoom, like so you can apply slashes out of zoom, and then when you go into your zoom, damage gets higher. It works the other way too. So you're wanting to stay in zoom a lot of times with this weapon. So maybe if you got negative zoom, it would depend on you. If you like the zoom, then you don't want negative zoom then. But I wouldn't mind negative zoom myself on my Riven. My Riven doesn't have any negatives though; it only has the 3 positives. Having a negative on your Riven is usually a good thing because it boosts all the positives. As long as that negative is not a bad negative. You know, you wouldn't want like negative multi-shot or anything. You want a negative that doesn't really matter, like negative zoom or you know, things like that. Some negatives actually can be positives too, because like, you know those Incarnate weapons, like the OG Incarnate weapons, how they have a evolution that rewards them for not getting criticals? If you get negative crit on those weapons, it's actually a good thing. So I'm going to head over to this life support, hit like a couple of them. But negative zoom can sometimes be a good thing too. I think for me it would be a good thing on this weapon. But for you, maybe you want to keep the zoom, maybe you don't. You don't really get to choose what's on your Riven, so maybe you won't get to choose, and you'll get some random thing that you kind of have to live with, which is what most Rivens end up being. You just end up with some kind of random negative that's not too bad, but there probably could have been a better one, like negative infested. Negative infested isn't too bad. They die quick enough, but you usually wouldn't mind getting a better negative than that. I'm going to put my 3 to get myself some armor and status immunity, and my weapon looks like it's on the floor over there. Nope, weapon got stolen again, as is tradition. And again. I think we got to get that Trackmaster down. Where is he? He's right here. Hopefully he was the only one. There might be more, though. They are scourge to Lewis Circulus, the Trackmasters. They mess with the spawns. They steal your weapons. We're about to have the Thoraxes come, and that'll be the 10-minute mark, and that'll be it for this run here. Lewis Circulus, you sometimes expect to get less kills because you spend more time fighting big dudes. Oh my goodness, this 3 times zoom with like the Thrax crotches in my face is not a good thing. Why can't I go? Oh, it's because it's violence. I'm like, why can't I go into my Warframe? You're killing my vibe here, violence. I'm going to try to focus on Thoraxes because he's the one sucking life support. Not that we really care. I mean, we're heading out after this anyway, but... Oh, can't switch to the operator. Gotta go up here. Alrighty. Let's work on violence. And that'll be it. See, sometimes that zoom hurts when they get up in your face. Like the Acolytes and the Thoraxes, how they like to get up in your face. Sometimes the 3.5 times zoom is a little bit painful. Oh, I thought he was down there. Now he's around the side there. All right, I think those slash procs will kill him. Throw another shot into him. There we go. Okay, so 10 minutes in. I spent a little bit longer than 10 minutes killing the Thraxes. We're at 448 kills, so about the same. Yeah, you hate violence? I hate violence too. He shuts your abilities off. On some Warframes, that's like a death sentence. I haven't played Grendel since the rework, but on old Grendel, if violence came out, it was like a death sentence for you.
What you have learned here will serve you well.
So 448 kills here. Like I said, you expect to get a little bit less kills on Circulus, so that's about, we got 500 on Kuva Survival, 450 here. That's about normal. But I don't think that tells the full story of the Coma Rex, just because the enemies are such low levels compared to like really far Steel Path endurance. So, you know, this weapon looks like an above average weapon, but I would actually rate it a little bit higher. Just because it has that crazy endurance, like level cap end game potential with it. So, very good weapon. It's right from the dojo. Super easy to get. Yeah. So that's about it. That's the build there for the Coma Rex. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked it, give it a like. And thanks so much for watching, guys. You guys have a good day. Bye.